try. Hang on, Logan. What's up, buddy? Hang on. Hang on. Let me get you over here. There you go.
Oh,
Look at that. Oh, wait. Hang on. Other way. You can figure it out. Other way. There you go. What is up, my man? Good morning.
It is. If y'all hear, I got to give y'all a heads up. If y'all hear screaming in the background, that's kids on the other side of the room. We're at home right now. I'm not at a fancy Thanksgiving background like Eric is.
You like that?
That's pretty interesting, actually.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I
get it.
No, I think we're all, I mean, I'm up here at the Rise, but I think everyone's, with family, things like that. Hey, as people are coming in on the right-hand side or anywhere, there's a meeting chat. If y'all have questions, start typing those out. We definitely don't want this to be just a lecture. I mean, that's not what Flip Flop Fridays are about. We want, what questions do y'all have? Let's get some dialogue going. That's what makes these things special. So start typing away so we can start answering those. We'll get started here in a couple more minutes and get going. Mr. Logan, how was your Thanksgiving?
Man, it was good, dude. We spent a lot of time hanging around the house. I'm kind of a fitness freak like you are, and I spent a lot of time not doing that and eating a bunch of stuff. That was bad, but this time of year, folks calm down and just don't do as much work, or some people that are growing their business ramp it up because of the time when no one's paying attention, so they can get a lot of opportunity. We're definitely a spot in business this year where I'm not gonna ramp it up at the moment. I'm gonna chill a little bit.
That's where I'm at. I'm in. If it wasn't raining so damn much, I would literally be out at my ranch every day in my just digging holes and pushing dirt. Every year I'm like, I'm gonna chill during the Christmas and just take it easy. And every year I'm like 100 miles an hour all the way through. And this year I'm kind of forced into it. I just don't really have anything, I have a couple projects, but just nothing that's, pressing. So
your kids are bigger too. That makes a difference. At the age of my kids right now, like even if you want to do something, it ain't gonna really happen.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes it harder. But as you know, I've got 4 kiddos, so we're pretty grounded at this age, at this point. The youngest kiddo is about to turn 2 in February, and then the oldest is 12. So we got a range of them, but between school stuff, babies being babies, man, we're pretty grounded, dude, right now.
Yeah, you can only do so much. All right, here we go. I don't like that I have to sit here and wait. I have to focus on this little bitty spot that says admit people, because they're in the waiting room. I got to figure out how
you can do that automatically, actually.
It won't let me. There's 2 things. It's a security thing. Everyone either has to have a password or there has to be a waiting room. And if there's a waiting room, then I have to literally pay attention, because if not, I'll look up and there's like 4 or 5 people just sitting there and I'm getting yelled at on my, my phone.
Yeah.
But all right, so we had a couple new people jump on in the meeting chat. If y'all could type out some questions y'all have, we're gonna get started here. I think we got enough people on here to rock and roll. That way we're not taking up Mr. Fullmer's any more time on a Friday. Mr. Fullmer, so I guess start off, I think most people know who you are.
Yeah.
Just for those that don't, just a kind of a quick rundown on, you don't have to go all the way back to, when you were in middle school, but just, over the last couple of years, just kind of like what you started off as and what you've kind of evolved into, because I've known you for a while, probably 10 years. And, when I first met you, you were going down one path. And then, you've kind of switched and really went heavy down another one. And then even recently, you've kind of, ventured off into some bigger stuff. So maybe just a quick overview of that, and then we can dig into it.
Okay, cool. Well, man, I'll start out by saying thanks for having me, Eric. You're right. I've made it to San Antonio. It was about 10 years ago, and right off the bat, I got out here and started looking around for the folks that are moving and shaking, the players, and you're one of the first people that I came across. So you're right. It's been a long time. It's been kind of cool to watch how everything's happened. So a lot's happened in San Antonio, a lot's happened in our business. It's fun to watch your stuff too. So I appreciate you calling me in and having me here.
I think they're getting tired of listening to me every week, so I'm trying to bring in fresh faces.
I get it. Well, I'm also going to point out that Ryan McDonald is on here. He's one of my business partners. And so a lot of the stuff that I'm saying also ties into Ryan's business. But anyway, that's the other dude in here that's not a white line agent is. So anyway, long story short, man, I've been a real estate.
I thought that furry guy looked familiar up there. I need to get that man a razor for Christmas.
It's in preparation to grow out a mustache.
I like it. I'm jealous. If I do mine like that, it's all silver now. That's what age I'm in. Oh, great.
Is it patchy and silver?
Yeah, it's like right here, it's real gray, and then it's up in here. So yeah, I'm over it. I'm just shaving.
All right, so I'll give you a quick bring to date. So Logan Fullmer is my name. Been in real estate more or less since about 2009, so the last 10 years. Early on, I was in and out, but things were still happening. So I've been here in San Antonio since about 2014, so close to 10 years. I was coming here on the weekends doing deals, meeting people, connecting before I lived here full time. So folks saw my face around here before I was actually a San Antonio resident. But over the last 10 years, I started out doing some small single family, some small vacant lots, infill, some small rentals. That's kind of how the whole thing started. And now at this point, I've got 2 different offices here in San Antonio. Combined, there are about 20 people, including partners and employees there. I just looked this up actually, and at any point we have between 10 and $20 million in escrow across all business lines, whether it be in Dubai, to sell, to wholesale, just across all that. We're averaging around that range. In the last couple of years, we've still really done a lot of what we'll call wholesale deals, I guess, with land, infill land and ranches, doing a little bit of single family, not quite as much. We've done some significant deals on the multifamily side, and then light industrial, which, I've really enjoyed those. I've still stayed really, really transactional in the last couple of years because the market's just been so hot, and it's so tempting to sell something for a big influx of cash than it is to just hold it for cash flow. But also valuations were high, so that's influenced our decisions. Now the market's changing, and my office will probably look a lot different. At the moment, we've got a small note portfolio, less than 20 notes, more or less. We've got the 2 offices. We've got a lot of cash and credit. Everybody's balance sheets are looking really strong that way. But in terms of real estate business, my collective business actually hold a lot less assets than you would think for real estate business. We've remained really transactional. Now, the next 3 years, probably that's different. Now we're going to be deploying the cash and the credit and the equity that we've built at this very frothy top time of the market. So not a lot of folks do well timing markets, and I'm not going to say we necessarily timed it, but we knew it was hot. So we kept a lot of our chips at home. We put it in the deal and get it back quick, and we grow the base. At this point now, it's time to start looking at more of lifetime asset models, and that's kind of the direction the business is going. So in a nutshell, that's what I got going on. What I think is probably going to be the most valuable for everybody's talking about market conditions. Let me ask y'all this. If y'all don't mind, maybe just say it or respond in the chat. How long have you been in real estate? 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5, 5 to 10. Let me get a rough idea of where everybody's at here. Yeah.
5.
Okay.
11 years.
5, 11. Mia, 10, or Susie, Elizabeth, what you got?
So as an agent, 18 years, and as a real estate investor, 12.
Okay, got some season there. All right,
5.
So go ahead.
Can y'all hear me if I talk?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's just if multiple people are talking, it'll kind of block them out. Like it'll pick one.
Okay, awesome. I'm probably the newest to this.
Okay. We've got some younger folks in the real estate business. We got some seasoned folks. So this will work good for everybody probably. I do want to talk about general market conditions a little bit, and I'll talk about kind of what we're doing. Some of it may be a little bit at a higher level, but I also realize there's a lot of that stuff that's going to be meaningful to y'all. So, in the last 10 years, we've really experienced this crazy bull market. It's been bullish for a long time. In the last couple of years, it's been euphoric. And there's no rationale, there's no reason. Transactions are happening at breakneck speeds at dollar higher, higher, higher every single time. And as cool as it is to participate in that, a monkey can look brilliant, a monkey can make a lot of money, and a lot of bad lessons can be learned. Bad habits, I guess you could say. So my first real estate transactions, I was not a principal to, but they were in 2009. I was working on the agency side for a developer. So I got to watch that as opposed to being a principal now with some significant dollars. And I've seen just an extreme difference, I guess. So right now we're starting to return back to normal. And for most folks, they feel like the market's crashing. What's really happening is we're returning more to a stabilization. The problem is the only way that that's going to happen is our economic system's got to get the shit pounded out of it. And that's happening by interest rates going up higher than they need to be to just hit the brakes on everything. And for us, we say, gosh, this middle America, this squeeze the economy, this sucks for us. But this is for our own good. It's like when a parent says, stop being mean to your brother, go to your room for a little while. That's what this is. We have had our cake. We've had our cake and we've eaten it too for the last 3 or 4 years. And we've been doing great for the last 10. That can't go forever. Things get out of whack. That's what's so neat about our economy here is we have those controls. And some folks get mad at the government controls. In this case, it's really good to have. It's my opinion. Although we're all going to have tougher times. I don't believe we're going to make quite as much money in the last quarter, the first couple quarters of next year as we did in the priors. That's okay because we need the sanity, we need the stability, and that's what's going to be happening. So right now we're seeing a lot of sales prices, they're dropping. And the reason is it's not any more complicated than this. Interest rates go up, sales prices go down. And the reason is folks still can't afford it or they're unwilling to pay more than the monthly amount they can afford. And that's a business can pay no more than $10,000 a month for rent for a building, or a homeowner can pay no more than $2,000 a month for that house or whatever. It just fits into the family budget that's built on the economics of the United States markets right now. So with those prices being generally fixed, more of the purchase price money and more of the money being bought for the property spent to be bought to buy the property goes to interest now and less goes to principal, which means the sales price has to come down. That's just how the equation works. So the frustrating part is there's not so much euphoria and we're going to make less per transaction. There are going to be fewer sellers because problems are happening. So we're going to have to work harder for every one of those deals. But as these prices,
just to jump in there, you brought up a point, and that's where White Line, I think we have an opportunity to grow tremendously over the next couple of years because we are not a commission-based brokerage. We're a transactional brokerage. You know, you sell a $500,000 house with us, it only costs $599. You sell a $500,000 house with Keller Williams, they're taking 20%. So you can do less with us and make more versus other companies. And this is our time to really get out there and try to bring agents in.
So I agree with that. Also from the agent side to make the money, if you get the conversation with someone to list a $300,000, $400,000, $600,000 house, you don't have to charge 3% to be able to make the same amount you would at a different firm. So you might be able to charge 2% or 1.5% and still make 15 grand, which is a great amount of money. You're gonna be able to beat out some other agents and you're gonna do it in a time where the market's really fucked up. So I like that. So talking about transactions for a minute, in 2020, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this market is so hot. When is it gonna fall apart? And I went back and looked at transactions in Austin during 2005 all the way to 2012, historic data. And what I realized is the sales prices were trending downwards and they stabilized. So that was a negative thing. If people would look at that graph, they would see downwards and say, bad, it's red, whatever. But when you looked at the transactions, they started to stabilize and there were actually a lot of transactions happening. The volume of transactions was still really strong because people still had a third, fourth, fifth kid, needed a bigger house. They still had to move across town. They still got a new job in Austin, had to move from somewhere else. So the transactions were happening. And in that moment, I wasn't really sure what that meant to me yet, but I remember thinking, wow, if I'm an agent and I'm a transactionally paid person, I still have an opportunity to have a lot of at bats to make money. And I remember thinking at the sales prices that are high in Austin, damn, those agents were still probably printing money.
Yeah.
Well, in the Central Texas and South Texas markets, sales prices have gone from average of $175,000 for a house to 300 grand. Those are good numbers, man. 3% of that's $9,000. Dude, you sell one house a year and you're gonna make a great living, or one house a month, you're gonna make a great living, even in a depressed market like this. So I see the volume of transactions, especially in a very stable market like San Antonio, where people are still moving. The volume is still should be really good, although it's going to look different. Your sales prices will come down a little bit. You're going to have to work a little bit harder to get those sellers to come to you as opposed to somebody else, because generally there will be a little bit fewer sellers because they don't have the money to upgrade the next house. They don't have the ability to pay an 8% mortgage. We're going to have 10% mortgage by Christmas or January probably. So that's going to mean something big time.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt.
But a lesson that we learned in our businesses collectively is casting a much larger net still allows for a good volume. So where folks were relying on social media, their networks, their relationships to just get listings without having to work super duper hard, you're going to have to go to a model where you're going to spend some time casting out your net. And the larger you can cast that net out, the greater your odds are of getting deals. In one of our offices, we have like 12 people and 6 VAs attached to those 12 people, and they're hounding the phones all day long for deals. And we have a pretty significant volume monthly in that office. But I would suspect that a lot of residential agents can work that same model. Even something as basic as a VA that might cost you $1,000 a month, doing outbound calls, or you personally working a dialer. I'm not going to say another agency, but it's my opinion that there's another agency that is the best at working dialers, and they get a significant amount of new listings. And I think that's one of the best models that there are. So that training is great. And if you apply it to an agency like yours, where an agent gets to keep a lot more of the commission, literally spending 1 to 2 days or 3 days a week on a dialer working through lead lists to get new leads will bring a volume that's so strong you wouldn't even believe it, and even in a market like this. So I think there's some lessons that can be taken out of the stuff.
Absolutely. Oh, hang on, I got to submit someone.
Okay.
Hey Logan, real quick. I know with the market kind of taking a change and doing all that stuff, I mean, and it's, I guess, kind of up to speculation. How long do you think before it kind of levels itself out? I mean, have you kind of put any thought on to how long you think this roller coaster will go?
The only indicator we have is history. And early on, I would look at this and say, well, let me ask the smartest people and see what their forecasts are. And my brother-in-law works on Wall Street, hedge fund guy. I mean, those guys are doing like, I don't know, they're managing a $2 billion fund. I mean, I've got friends that own businesses that are worth $200-300 million. One of my business partners was a partner at the 4th largest firm, CPA firm in the United States. I mean, their transactions were like hundreds of millions and billion-dollar transactions. I said, I like to say I'm around some of the smartest guys and connected with some of the smartest guys that are in the United States these days. And nobody is really good at doing that. But what they can tell you is we've seen these markets behave like this in the past. And what typically happens is things will start to get weak. Things will fall down like they are. And a market will eventually it'll land somewhere. Either a hard landing or soft landing, don't know. It'll land somewhere and start to create some stability. The frustrating part is the stability happens at the bottom this time, not up at the top like it was in the last 7 or 8 years. So the stabilization will start to happen when the interest rates, what you'll see is when the interest rates stop increasing, now you'll see the kinks work out of the system. You'll start to see some level of stability. The houses will find a median price that they can still sell for at these high interest rates, and people will still feel okay about buying or forced to buy and will buy at a certain range. That'll start to stabilize, and usually it could take a year or two, and it usually takes 1 to 2, sometimes 3 years to start to turn around, I guess you could say. So when things fall, they can take a solid year at least. They can start to stabilize for a year or two at the bottom, and then you'll start to see early phase recovery type stuff. So I think what I'm basically saying is none of the shit moves fast. I mean, it can a year, 2, 3 years to see like dramatic changes. It's even taken a year almost for this market to change like it is. And we've had rapid interest rate changes. It's taken, I don't know, 9 months now.
I will say, I built Alma Home Source in 2008. Some of the best businesses are built during a crash. Some of the most money made is built during a crash, if you want to call this a crash. So I'm excited about it because the last couple of years as a real estate investor have been really hard. You're competing with everybody. I mean, absolutely everybody. Anyone that had any money is throwing it at real estate because it's, that's where it's at. And then now people are a little scared on the sideline. So I'm excited. I'm getting cash heavy and I'm ready to go. I don't know which direction I'm going to go. It just depends on what the market brings. I mean, I do have things that I like to invest in that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, but the owner finance model for me with interest rates a little higher works better, because when they can go to a bank and get, 3 or 4% and I'm trying to get 11, that's a difference. When it's 7 or 8 and I'm saying, hey, I want 11% for this house, it's not that bad. It doesn't hurt as bad.
So to your point, I think a lot of folks looking at this right now, if their business is extremely developed, maybe like yours or mine, they have what particular perspective. I think if it's maybe a little less developed, they're trying to figure out the direction it needs to go. I think the fundamentals are more important than what's happening in the market. And the fundamentals are only buying an investment that makes a ton of sense, looking for, unless your business is really big and you're willing to grow your dollars with smaller margins. That's where I'm kind of at in some parts of my business right now. But if you're still growing your business like we were in the last several years, you're going to look at more discipline for each transaction and look at the best deal you can possibly get at those times. So the fundamentals to me are more important than where the market's going if your business is smaller. If your business is a little bit bigger, you still have to rest on the fundamentals, but you have the ability to plan across market cycles at a later date. So for folks here, if you're acting as an intermediary transactional agent, I think it's a great time to go out and find those people, figure out what your proposition is going to be. You got to employ some little different strategies. So I'm going to say this now. I haven't run it by Eric, but Eric, feel free to tell me. We don't play that game here, but we'll see how this goes.
You button ready. Hang on.
So we had a particular deal. There was a pre-foreclosure in Alamo Heights pop up a week and a half ago. And man, they were wanting enough money. They wanted $300,000 for it, $350,000. I'm like, dang, that's close. There's a comp down the street that sold for $450,000 or $480,000 or something like that. So we're looking at this saying there's a lot of margin potentially there, $1 to $150,000 in margin. Do we take it down and dump it on the market? They were in foreclosure. They needed us to file a restraining order to postpone their foreclosure, at least work with the bank to get it passed a little bit. But we bought a lot of deals that we've had to lower the price 20, 30, 40% to get them to sell. And at a $300,000 spend, I say, I don't know if that's worth it. So what we came back and said is, you know what, seller, they told us they trust us unequivocally. We're willing to go to bat for you. We're going to put in a lot of time, but our time is more valuable than the average intermediary. My wife's an agent, by the way. So what we decided to do is we said, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to buy your house. We're going to clean it up for you with you. We're going to take really professional pictures. We're going to figure out how to price it. We're going to file a restraining order against your lender to prevent them from being able to sell it during the interim. And we're going to list this, and the listing agent fee is 12%.
Interesting.
And everyone's like, what? 12%? That's illegal. It's 3%. No. Like my 3-year-old daughter says, no. You need to go around and look. And I've already done this. So I encourage you, if you question that, there's not a promulgated fee rate. There's not. It doesn't exist. Now, there's a very common industry standard of 3%. And a lot of folks say, well, I'm willing to list it for 1 or 2%. But if you can go that direction, you go the other. And I noticed this about 4 years ago. I saw an agent listing a house on the east side as a dump, and it was like $100,000 house. And I remember he did a 10% listing fee. And I thought, this dude's gonna make 10 grand. And I considered that and thought, he normally wholesales. I see what he did here. He decided to go and put in the work that he would normally have to do, prevent the foreclosure, help him clean the house out, go way above board or overboard than a normal listing agent would. But instead, he's going to make his money on selling it to an MLS. So he gets the opportunity to go to the big market, and he probably won't make quite as much as he would have, but he lowers his risk and I put his money in. He can use his skills and his license to help this person get out of the deal. And ultimately, the seller is going to net more money doing it this way than they would if they sold to an investor.
That's actually really smart. I like that.
So we told them 12%. Actually, on that one is a 12% listing fee and 3% to the buyer agent. Total is 15% of a $400,000 house. That's pretty hefty. But we made very, very strong efforts to tell the person, we're going to get paid very highly on this, but our attorney is going to be engaged. We're going to do a lot of work for you. You can go home and go to bed and forget about this. We're going to get some showings. We're going to bring you to the closing table and get you your money. And we're going to get you more in your pocket than we would have gotten you if you'd have sold to us. But in this case, we're still going to end up making like 50 grand on a listing that's going to sell for like, right. And here's the cool thing. We can start to lower this price if the market doesn't accept the 450 that we're listing for right now, the 449. We can lower it substantially. We can lower it to 420 and 399 in the course of a couple of weeks, and still net the seller more than we would have netted if we would have bought it, and still make ourselves a lot of money. Because if you're lowering that, the percentage, we're still got a healthy percentage. So we do great, and he gets the advantage of we're on his side to get your sucker sold fast. So there's some strategies like that that obviously, Eric, you got to decide, because it's aggressive. Lissette's going to see a commission rate go across at 12% with 50 grand, and her broker's gonna be like, what the fuck is this? You know?
No, I mean, white line, I built this business for, real estate investors and things like that. Most brokerages don't like real estate investors. Most brokerages, they just want their 20, 30%, come pay me a desk fee, wear your pantsuit and your name tag. That's not us. Like we walk the line, and I'm okay with it because I understand it, right?
Right.
Most brokers don't understand it. So I'm cool with creative stuff. I mean, I encourage it. I would love for us to be out there doing some things like this. And I think it's a smart idea. I'm surprised in 20 years of real estate investing, I've never thought of that angle. It's a great angle. Great angle.
So what's the risk look like on your side? So we'll talk about both sides for a minute. And I got to play both sides because I have to sell this to my wife's broker if he argues about it. And there's a fiduciary responsibility that my wife has as a listing agent, and ultimately her broker has to the seller of the house. And for a person traditionally in real estate that only gets 3% always and never does things creatively and has been just a broker for 20 years, which her broker is or longer, he's looking at that saying, how are you doing a service to your client by charging them so much? And the response is, or my thought is, this is a high value transaction that requires a lot of skill. And we're doing something together that not many other agents could do. As a result, we're charging much more for our fees. If you hire the high-end lawyer, he's $900 an hour. If you get that idiot down the street from you that's only working 3 days a week, that's low rate, he's $150 an hour. That's what this boils down to. And I would turn around and question the broker. Hey, how would you deal with this deal if it came into your lap? What would you do? And my gut says that his answer, exactly. My answer says that he couldn't solve this problem for him. So if the broker can't solve it, but we can for a high fee, I'm going to defend that. And I think our broker will get on board with that.
Yeah, no, that's smart. And if he won't, you know where to go.
Well, my wife is actually getting ready to start taking more classes. I think she needs to become her own broker because as reasonable, we actually talked about you a couple of days ago. I'm like, man, Liz, if we have some more aggressive strategies, should we go that direction? But ultimately she does need to become her own broker because we're in some stuff that I would call somewhat high risk. And if we do a ton of litigation, we're in probably a dozen lawsuits right now. If we get sued, we're not even going to call the E&O insurance. We're going to use our own attorneys to defend it. And a broker should be really thankful of that. But that's part of why I want my wife to have her own brokerage license, because we're going to make our decisions and we're going to defend them, or we're going to make them on our own laurels and our own budget and our own abilities, not having to rope somebody else in who may not like that.
Yeah, you're not having to ask daddy every time, or mommy every time if you can go out and play. It's y'all are going to be walking a real fine line. I've got a couple agents that walk a fine line, but I have talks with them. I'm like, hey, for you, yes, like you know what you're doing. You're good with it. Now if a brand new agent came on board and told me about a certain deal, I may say, I need to partner with you on this, not like money wise, but like I need to hold your hand on this. So it'd be an agent by agent thing, but yeah, I could see y'all really, really pumping up that E&O insurance premium every year. Like y'all do what? Yeah, it's going to be $20,000 a year in E&O insurance, not because they do. I mean, every year I get asked, how much do you do in commercial? How much do you do in residential? How much farm and ranch? Because depending on how much percentages in each of those you have, your premium can shoot through the roof. And then if you do investing on top of that,
it's a different deal. I'd have to figure out, I'd have to talk to some of those underwriters and find that out. For us, I mean, our legal fees are anywhere from 20 to 40,000 every single month these days. That's been averaging that way for 2 years now. I would almost tell that to the E&O insurer and say, look, I cover my own. I need E&O because we have to have it for our brokerage. But I want you to know that I'm never going to call you ever. I will never call this policy. I will always use my own. That probably changes the premium if it's uncallable or they exclude almost everything that we do.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So another thought is everybody's working, doing agency stuff.
How that works out.
Okay. Well,
I'm curious.
Okay. Everybody's over here is doing agency stuff, doing their own investments. There's another thing that I want to talk about. What's going to happen in this market, or what are we going to do about it? I've veered away from a lot of single family just traditionally in the last couple of years. We do it, but not as much in the volume. We're doing some of the commercial assets, we're still doing a ton of land in the extreme distress that I won't say is single family or multifamily or whatever. It's just distress, anything. We haven't specifically focused for houses, but I will tell you, in the last 10 years, Wall Street has started to look at single family and they've called it an asset class now. Before the last 10 years, they've never done that. You read in the news about all the big funds building these massive single family portfolios. And the reason they're doing that, they didn't do it in the past because they couldn't deploy a lot of money in one shot. But they could go drop literally hundreds of $1 millions on equities in the exchanges or into an apartment building that's, I don't know, 50 stories high in Manhattan. They could dump a lot of money at once. They couldn't do it single family and they never paid attention. But they started to watch some of these small landlords get hundreds of houses, and the appreciation with single family, you're talking high single digits, low double digits on average. And that's beating the averages on the index funds and the stock exchanges. They're usually 7 to 8% average over the course of 30 years. Single family is starting to beat that. And Wall Street's taking notice. And why I think that's so important is because single family, it means more now in the next few years. And I also think as the market gets weaker, these funds are buying in volume still. I've spent a lot of time talking to folks that are on that side of it. And while some funds are dialing back, some funds are hitting the gas and still buying a lot of single family. So my question is, what does that mean to y'all? You're probably not going to be selling single family direct to a fund because funds don't like to buy it like that. They have offices that do their acquisition. They'll go to the auctions and buy 20 houses in a month in one shot, or they'll try to do large volume acquisition or buy from wholesalers. They can scoop up a lot at once, but they need to be stabilized. But it helps support the single family values that are about $175,000 to $200,000 in a median area. It really supports those. So I think there's strong transactional volume on that. We've listed a couple of houses on the market in the last few weeks in that price point, and they fucking vanished and had multiple offers still over ask because we priced lower. And some of the properties we've got that were, $1 to $2 million we listed on the market, we're having some real serious trouble. We've had to work hard. We've had to lower the prices. We had to get aggressive. We've had to do a lot of guerrilla marketing, and it's helped them sell. But the low price stuff has just vanished. So I think it's really meaningful. So let me go a little bit further. So of the assets we have for sale, we've got 150-acre ranches. We've got infill development land. We've got multifamily. We've got industrial. We have single family housing. So we literally, if we look right now, everything we have to wholesale and listed on MLS, we've probably got about 30 different assets in inventory. And across those, the higher you go up the sales price spectrum, the slower they're selling. We actually have a house in the Dominion right now. I would never have thought I'd done some shit like that, but I got one of those. And even that thing started out listed from another agent at 800 grand. We took it over and we're down in like 690 now. And we have an agreement that we promised we'd lower it 25,000 a week until it sells. Now our basis is so low that we're not going to lose money. There's no way, but we're lowering $25,000 a week until it sells. But we listed a house on Lowellwood last week for $99,000. We had like 10 or 15 offers. Some of the offers were $10,000 and $15,000 over ask. Our highest offer was like $114,000.
Damn. Yeah, so
Right.
that market's still hot.
Right. So the people that are buying that stuff are the small mom and pops operations. And I say small, they're big. I mean, but compared to like Wall Street, they're not. Like the San Madrids, like the guys like your shop used to be that are buying single family and making notes and rentals. I know a lot of those guys are still buying like crazy, but they're buying at less than $170,000.
Yeah, well, you have to because of your interest rates, and that's a whole nother Zoom. But when you leverage out the back end and interest rates, and you get, people that are financed real high up, it just gets hard. Numbers get fuzzy.
It does. So where that message gets roped back in for everybody here. Really good about single family investing, although I've walked away a lot of it from the last few years. We're starting to pick up a little bit more of it again. And part of why I don't like it is on my side, it's a hassle to deploy a large amount of cash in one house at a time, whereas I can go buy or build a fucking warehouse that's 20,000 square foot and deploy $1 million or $2 million in very quickly. But I also realize there is strength in small, low price single family right now. And while we have the time and we have the manpower now in our office, I'm spending more time back in that. And I think that that's very valuable for everybody in here to pay attention to and to understand and to not ignore that.
I agree. I've noticed that land has slowed down. So I have some land in in Victoria, and it 10-acre tracts, 160,000 owner finance. I can't get anyone to even look at it. And you fast forward the last 2 years, and it'd be gone in a couple weeks. I've got one track in Gonzales that I'm just sitting on. I got a house. It was part of a ranch I chopped up, and it came down to a house in 10 acres. I had it listed at $650,000. It went tracked day one, cash, contingent. I'm like, market's hot. Let's do it. Let's roll with it. So 4 months later, they couldn't sell their house. Interest rates gone up. I backed out of the deal, told them go fly a kite. I've lowered that house all the way down to 520. I got an offer yesterday for 475, and I was like, I will take it. And
Dude,
I mean, that's how fast some of these higher price homes are dropping.
you know what? That brings up another point. Let me jump in real quick. There's this, I don't know what you would call it, but it's kind of like it's like a, I don't know. It's this place. It's this where these certain things happen. I guess you can call it a chain of events, or like when it's an ideology about listing and selling. And right now is really important more than any time, probably in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, we listed property for sale, and within 2 or 3 days, we had all these offers. We're beating people up. Get rid of your option period, no inspection, just no financing. And then I'm like, ooh, just pound. Well, what we have realized, especially now, is within the first week, those are your best offers. If you don't have them, if you don't have several of them, you're not priced right to sell quickly. And unfortunately, with the inventory building, it might take 60 days to sell a house right now. But if your clients or you want to sell it now, you need to price very aggressively, and don't be afraid to go too low, because people will bid it up still if they're too low. People are there, but you have to price low. So when we list something within the first week, if we priced it right, we know it. We have several offers. Even today, we'll look at them and say, let's take our best one now, because I've been in that spot, Eric, where you're saying I didn't take it, or I was foolish or aggressive with them. And then a couple weeks later, a couple months, I'm like, fuck, that was the best deal. Why didn't I take it? I hurt myself. The best deal is really the deal you have right now. And
Absolutely.
It didn't matter as much in the last 10 years, but the deal that you have that's credible and can close right now, you better make that darn thing work. And we had this deal we bought for $1.4 million in downtown Austin, and it was worth $2 million by the comps, and possibly 2.2, 2.4, because the market was so euphoric. Dude, I bought this thing in March. Closed on immediately. I had a wholesale buyer for 2.2 contracted the next week. I didn't want to wholesale it. I was just hurrying up, let me pay for it, because I didn't want to risk the seller changing their mind, because I got buyers all over. 2.2 million, he contracted it. Bam, I'm about to make 800 grand after fees, about 650. I'm the king, feeling so good about it. Well, he put down 25,000 hard, non-refund earnest money. He's closing, dude. He backed out in a couple of weeks, said feasibility wouldn't work. What it boiled down to is his financing wasn't as strong as we thought it was. So I got to keep his earnest money. I'm laughing. I'm putting it back out there, like, get another buyer, and I didn't. Next buyer came in at 2 million. Okay, still gonna make 400 or 500 after fees. Still happy. Plus, I got this 25 grand earnest money. That dude's financing started to fall apart, and interest rates started to rise in April. All of a sudden, he backed out. So I went back to him before he canned, and I said, man, you know what? What number makes sense for you? Obviously, 2 doesn't, because you're scared and your interest is going up. How about 1.8? He says, okay. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm still gonna make some money. Interest rates rose again that week, and I was gonna send him the contract, and he's like, no, just wait till Monday. We're out of town, and I was out of town too. I was like, all right. Monday happened. I sent the motherfucker the contract. He didn't sign it. He changed his mind. Now I'm at 1.8. We've been through 3 buyers. I'm like, this is a hassle. Interest rates going up again. I put it back on him out. Now I put it on MLS this time. Dude, I'm starting to get offers in the 1.6 range. Remember, my entry was 1.4, which I'm still protected, but $200,000 in margin after fees on a $1.4 million purchase, you're only gonna make 50 or 100 grand. That's not a win. That's risk. Well, at the end of the day, I finally contracted a month later for 1.5. I just closed that. Yes. So I bought that thing in January, February. It was March or April. Dude, I just closed that thing, and it's November. I ended up netting, I think it ended up being about $40,000 when it was all done.
4%.
To me, that's a loss. Huh?
Well, yeah, less than 4% return.
Dude. The agents made more on the deal than me. But so that's what's so it was a high priced asset in a very inflated market, which was Austin. It was development. It was a third of an acre, even though it had buildings on it, it was really development play in one of the hottest zip codes in Austin. It was high priced. Interest rates were changing. It was a speculative deal. It wasn't a cash flow asset. All those factors hurt me. So I'm thankful that we didn't lose any money, but we haven't messed around that stupid thing for 6 or 8 months. Those were all the lessons. And we think we're smart. We think we know what we're doing. We're smart enough to get out and not lose money. So we did great. In that case, we're home runs. We're kings. But not everybody has a margin of safety that big.
You got to cancel the yacht sale. You got to call the yacht place and be like, hey, that yacht. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Call the Ferrari dealership. Yo, can't do it.
So the neat thing is we didn't have financing costs because we paid cash on that deal. But if we'd had financing costs, we would have lost at least 50 grand for interest months.
Yeah, but you had a loss of, the thing with cash. I got rid of private lenders this last year and went to more of a cash basis. And the only thing I've realized is when you have deals like that and you're sitting there going, damn, I could have bought 2 or 3 other deals. That million could have made me 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. And that now I'm dead in the water, unless you have unlimited cash, which, I don't know anyone that has unlimited, but
You're right.
that's what's killing me on that Gonzalez deal is, and the Victoria. Well, and the Victoria's not much, but is I'm just like, man, I got so much cash in it. It was $1 million ranch. And it's just like, man, then the house was the home run, and right out the gate, I had the house. I'm like you, man, I just made a 60% return on $1 million,
Yep.
and I shouldn't have accepted it with that contingency, but the market was so hot. I'm like, oh, they'll sell their house tomorrow, and then my laziness, I didn't want to put it back on the MLS. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. They'll sell their house, and I looked at 4 months went by and I finally woke up one day and I was like, if I don't get out of this and if I don't do something quick, I am going to lose my ass. And so I panicked and here we are. And this is almost a year. It's still, I still don't have a contract. I mean, I have an offer, but I don't have a contract. It's like,
Dang, that's a long time.
a long time. Now I still have I could sell that. Even if I sold that, I was like you, I bought it right. I mean, I could sell that property at 450 and I have the other one and I'm still okay. But for the amount of cash, the amount of time, if you look at the time value of money and return and different things like that, if you really analyze it, it's like, was it a win? I didn't lose, so obviously it's a win, but I feel
you did right. But I think the part here is a lot of folks are starting to hear these messages on this and starting to say, I need to be more careful. I need to pay attention. And I still have a lot of really good opportunity in times like this, but I have to really watch. I got to look at the stuff flying around and figure out what to do and think and be agile. So, hey, why don't we do this? I see some chats, some questions down there. Okay. 1 month, 2.5 years. Susie says, damn. Why don't we, let's open up for some discussion. Like the stuff that you are talking about, that's got to have some things popping around people's brain. What are y'all thinking?
I actually have something I wanted to bring up. So I have a single family off market property is actually in Victoria, Texas that I'm kind of have on the hook at the moment. But I guess with all the market change and the interest rates and all that stuff and me not really knowing the Victoria market like I know other markets has me a little reluctant to really, put my neck out there because I'm curious to see how those cash buyers are still kind of buying around the area. Would you say that a lot of cash buyers kind of are still more reluctant or they're still kind of?
One thing I will tell you, and because we have the wholesaling business that we have does single family portfolios also. And actually we spent more time in the tertiary markets and the secondary markets like Victoria and things like that in the last year, but we have noticed those sales have slowed down somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another couple ways to look at it. We just sold a 14 house package in Victoria. We wholesaled it last month. It closed. We peeled off $100,000. It was $140,000 wholesale fee on that one. It sold for about $1.5 million, and a fund bought that. So the properties are performing. They're in pretty good condition. They paid pretty close to top dollar for it, but literally they bought a stream of income. So that was kind of a neat play for them. Now in the Victoria market, I would say if you're selling just a single family to just a one-off investor, the flipper rent house guy, that's probably softening. But let me ask you this, Oscar, were you going to be an agent or were you going to buy it?
I was actually planning to wholesale it.
Why don't you just contract? Why don't you become their broker or become their agent and say, I'm going to list this thing on the MLS for you. Do you think you can sell them on getting a higher fee? Like say maybe 10, how much is the property worth roughly, more or less?
ARV or purchase price?
Either one,
ARV
roughly.
215. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a bread and butter, middle of America house.
Yeah.
What do you think it sells for right now as is? It needs some work, it sounds like.
As is, if it went today, because it's actually in pretty great condition. As is, I would say, I mean, we got a property on the back corner for 175 and it's nowhere even near the condition. So I would say you're probably going to be, 180 to maybe low 200s.
Dude, price that thing at 179
Yeah.
and be their agent and do a 10% listing fee. Or even do a 7% listing fee. Fuck, man. If you do 10% on 170 grand, that's $17,000. Now you're going to have to work really hard to identify the problems that the seller has and sell them on why you're going to be worth getting a bigger fee like that. Because they're going to see on that HUD, 10% of 179 is 17,000 bucks.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
I mean,
and you don't want
What do you have it contracted at as a wholesaler? I mean, probably way less than what they would net.
115 actually.
Yeah, you got tons of room.
Yeah.
So the sales pitch could be, hey, look, at 115, I can make some money on this. You can have a fast sale. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to put more money back in your pocket and I'm going to lower my risk and get you more money. But I'm going to earn more as a transactional agent. Are you okay with that? If they say yes, then I would say, all right, you're only going to walk with 115. What if I can get you to walk with about 150? Would you let me make a bigger listing fee? And it's pretty fucking hard for them to say no at that point.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I would only have this conversation in person because you're going to say, if you're willing to do that, I'm going to get you to sign the listing contract right now. Or I would have them on the phone and I would have that computer ready and say, if you agree to this, I'm going to agree only if you'll sign the listing agreement right now. And I would email that listing agreement by DocuSign while they're on the phone. Okay, do you see it in your inbox? Yes, great. All right, let's open this thing up. Let's go through the questions. All right, go ahead and sign it now. I would make them sign right now.
Yeah.
Because anytime they think about a proposition like that, there's such a great opportunity for them to go home and say, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to call a different agent. And you've given them all the gold already. You've shared your knowledge, your expertise. You've given them the pathway and they walk off and capitalize with somebody else. Don't let that happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
But see, now you're going to use your expertise to make a bigger fee with your listing, with your license, instead of taking the risk of buying it. Now on this price, you probably can still make pretty good money if you take it down and take it to market there, even with the numbers. But at the end of the day, you got to line the capital up. You're going to take some risk. And if you miss the market, it all's work for nothing. But I could guarantee you're going to make $17,000 wholesaling it, or maybe 40 taking it down. As crazy as this sounds, I'd do the listing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that that exit strategy. That's a good one for a lot of these deals where you're kind of like on the fence. Now you're like,
Yeah.
It's a win-win. So
Yeah. I never thought of the bumping up the commission rate. That's pretty cool. And that throws a lot of ideas running.
Let me mention something to y'all. I'm glad Ryan's here on this call with us today because he's one of the guys that we work together in our office. There's several partners of ours. And something that Ryan's focused on considerably in the last couple of years is the curative title stuff. That's kind of been our bread and butter. And I would say that's his strongest suit. Y'all are going to get into these spots when you're dealing with these sellers or deals when you're looking at on your own, investment deals where there are issues on the schedule C that they can't close. Multiple owners, judgments, liens. I don't know, man. The list, you got landlocked issues, ingress, egress, easements. And the reason I wanted to have Ryan on this call is because when y'all run into those issues, you're going to need a resource. And Eric knows some of this stuff, but I would say we're probably a better resource when it comes to just the big messes. There are times where we'll just give you information and say, hey, this is an easy solve, go do this. Sometimes it's way more than that. And we need to participate and we're going to make some money on it, but we can fix that problem in a way that I would venture to say most attorneys or investors or anybody else around here can't. And Ryan, I would say Ryan is the guy in our office with us that's probably the best at most of that stuff. So I wanted to introduce him on here, make sure everybody had his contact info. If it's okay, I don't want to sideline this direction of the market changes, but I did if anybody's got some title questions or some messy deal problems right now, I wanted to take this time to bring that up so we could talk about that. Ryan could brainstorm with you and see if that's a resource in the future for you. Does anybody have any of those things that are going on for the moment?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Earlier you said you were protected with that deal where you were losing money or getting pretty low in your profits on that. What do you do in the case that you can't get it sold for even what you invested into it?
Take the loss. That happened. So that's kind of one of my favorite themes I learned early on, and it really fucking sucked. And the only reason that I would have learned this lesson, I had a very experienced investor helping me with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. And I've helped coach some of my friends through that in the recent past now to the right answer. But kind of the theme is the first loss is the best loss. So sometimes folks make an investment and they say, oh my gosh, I thought I was gonna make 30 grand. And here I am. If I exit today, it looks like I'm gonna lose $7,000 on this $200,000 house. And intuitively, everybody says, well, I'm gonna go refi and get my money out, put a tenant there and sit on it until I can sell it again. Man, conceptually, that sounds good, but when that actually shakes out, what happens? You're gonna have to put more money in for your refi. You're gonna have to take a bunch of fucking time to fill out all this paperwork. Now you're gonna go find a tenant. Then that tenant's gonna kind of trash your freshly flipped house because you're gonna have to do a make ready in a year and a half when they move out. You're doing all this stuff that takes so much of your time, and you're trying to do that to just prevent a $7,000 loss. $7,000 sounds like a lot, but when you're talking about you're now taking on a new business, I mean, that rent house is like a business. You're gonna have to turn this into a rent house and take on a new business for the next 2 years to get you out of that hole. You're really actually losing less money if you sell today for a $7,000 loss. And it's very hard for folks to acknowledge that. But I sold a property 2 weeks ago. It was one in Houston a guy brought to me. I basically kind of was like a funding partner on it, but I ended up losing $2 grand on a $170,000 investment. And it sucks. But if I would have held that property, I would have lost more if I'd have sold it next summer. So you have to take your loss, recognize it, and move on. Otherwise, you're digging your hole deeper and you don't know it until you get it deeper.
Yep, I'm dealing with that on that freaking lot in Floresville. My ego's got me, and I'm sitting here paying attorney's fees, and I'm stubborn, and I don't want to let this lady win next door because she's in the wrong. And I look back and I'm like, man, a year ago, if I would just given her that, and Oscar knows this scenario, I'm still dealing with that, Oscar. And I'm just writing checks, taking up tons of my time. I had 60,000 dead money out for a year. It's like, should have just given her that little strip a year ago, dropped the price on the other one, got my money back, and moved on down the road. I'm still digging with it. It's egos.
Yeah, the crazy thing is we had a buyer on the hook. I mean, right out the gate.
I know.
Really?
Yep. Right. I mean, the first couple weeks. Yep. And then we found out that mobile home was encroaching, and I spent the last year in court and paying attorney's fees, and no one wants to do anything because of the situation. It's an older lady, she's in her 80s, so no one wants to touch it. They don't want to be on TV. Yep. So I mean, her electric pole is even on my property, and the city of Floresville won't go out and remove it. They're like, sorry,
Really?
I have a court, I have a thing from the JP of court, and they're like, we ain't doing it. We're not going to get smeared.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
You're right.
But I will definitely put Ryan's information on. Most people that call me, most agents that have transactional or title issues call me. I refer them to you anyways. But I'll put that on we have a private White Line Facebook group for White Line agents only. And that's where we do all of our talking, communicating. I'll put that info up there. I also recorded this one because we had a lot of people that couldn't make it because of the holidays. So, we've got 60 agents. So there's a lot of other people that'll see it. And if they have any questions, I'll direct them over there. But
that would be good. Just keep that at the top of your mind. Everybody gets busy and going, and when they have something that's a headache, they just think, it's just, let me move on and go do something else. But that is a pretty good resource. Even though it only takes 10 minutes, we give out more information to people than we actually do deals with them. But 1 in 5 becomes something that we need to participate in. And at the end of the day, it's a great return for everybody by us doing that service. So
yeah. Anybody have any questions? We're right at 10 o'clock. I don't want to hard stop it if there's some questions lingering. Anybody? Nobody?
Anybody want to buy a Victoria deal?
Oh, Victoria.
It's funny. I'll tell you what, man, my experience with Victoria is I built a lot of pipelines out there a long time ago. And that's actually, there's some pretty good buyers from the oil field business out there when I was around. So that's not a bad little economy actually in that particular town because of that. And right now you're looking at a lot of strength in the oil and gas business. So
I took a drive out there and I noticed there was a ton of movement happening around the town. So, that's kind of why I rolled the dice on it. But yeah, it looked like a pretty unique city.
it is. It definitely is. Yeah, I like your deal out there. It's a price that a lot of people can afford. You sound like your seller's willing to sell it for a price that's lower than the other property so it can move fast. And it's in a town that, has good commerce for a small town. It's a good tertiary town in my opinion. So I like that.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better hearing it from you guys.
Yeah.
Get it at 100. I'll partner with you and we'll put it in the MLS.
115. We're not far off. Let's go.
Go, 100 grand.
It is tenant occupied though. It is tenant occupied right now. The tenant's on a month-to-month lease and I'm making sure to get that lease so that way, if we need to take that step to get them out of there, we can.
If you go to somebody like that, there are times that we're in that situation where it's borderline for us. We'll go back and say, look, we're running into some issues, and I'll pick 3 or 4 of the problems that we have with it and say, look, we're struggling with it at this price point. I'll tell you what, if you'll go from 115,000 down to 100,000, I'll close tomorrow. And because you already gotten the title commitment back and the title's clean, what you could say is I'll close tomorrow and I'll save you the closing fees. And either you pay them or just get them to close in the attorney's office tomorrow. They walk with the entire 100 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's quick. Money
right.
talks. Yeah.
So maybe that's a way to get them off the 115. You and Eric got a deal y'all can do together. At 100 grand, you have so much safety in there. I wouldn't be uncomfortable taking that down at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I'd be interested, Oscar. Let me know.
I'll keep you posted. I'm in.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I've never even seen the house, but
It's a nice house, man. It's a good property.
I don't want to be living there. Single. My wife divorces me.
Could be roommates.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank everyone that I know it's Friday after Thanksgiving. Most people, would rather be hanging out with the family or doing stuff. I think this was probably one of our best flip-flop Fridays. Thank you, Logan. There's a ton of, I mean, just the commission thing, bumping the commission like that's a huge takeaway, it's one little nugget. That's all you need. And that's a huge nugget. I think that's going to play out for anyone that takes advantage of it. Joining this Zoom, could have made you $15,000 this next year off of one deal, just using that. I'm telling you, it's just one little nugget, you get a couple of those nuggets and that's all you need. So thank you for that.
I agree.
Logan. And if
no doubt.
What's up?
Oh, I said, yeah, for sure.
Oh, I thought Oscar was, sorry, I'm looking up. Yeah, if no one has anything else, I will share Ryan's info whenever I post this video into our agents group. And thank you again, Logan. This was awesome. We'll probably
Logan, thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You're welcome.
we'll probably take next Friday off, and then the following Friday, have another guest speaker. Probably do 1 or 2 a month of guest speakers, and then get back into, some more weekly things. But with the big guest speakers, I want to try to space it out a little bit. It gives me time to get the video processed and recorded and put up there. And so bear with me on that. But yeah, if that's it, then I'm going to stop the recording and wish everyone a safe Black Friday. I don't want to see you on the news tackling some kid for
PlayStation.
That might be me. Those PS5s are hot.
If y'all do that, make sure if you have logo gear, make sure you do that. Because I don't want to be like, White Line Realty, you're arrested on there. Got some kid in a headlock for a PlayStation. Definitely don't want that. So
Eric doesn't want to see a bum fight on the news with a White Line Realty hat in it.
we do things different. Yeah, you do. You beat up kids for PlayStation. Oh man. Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
it.
Thank you, Logan.
You got it. Bye, y'all.
Bye.